Okay, so we're doing a deep dive on Kamala Harris's running mate, Tim Walz.
Mhm.
You sent this article over from what was it? Publication name, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
And it's got some pretty wild stuff in there about him.
Yeah.
They're saying he had an inappropriate relationship with a student
Oh, wow.
back when he was a teacher and a football coach.
No kidding?
Yeah, and get this, there might have even been a school board investigation about it.
Seriously. I mean, the timing of this is just crazy. Right?
Totally. Like, talk
Correct.
about an October surprise.
Right. Just weeks before the election, this stuff comes out.
Exactly. Makes you wonder if it's, politically motivated.
Oh, absolutely. You got to think that.
So it gets even crazier. The article quotes this Twitter user, goes by the name @DocNetYouTube, and they're saying they saw Walz out at a gay bar and he was with a student.
Wow.
And they actually tweeted this at Walz directly.
Oh, so it's public then?
Yeah, like they really wanted to make a scene,
Yeah. It's like they're trying to control the narrative before anything even. I don't know.
Right. Like even if it's not true, the damage is kind of already done. People see that.
Exactly. It plants that seed of doubt.
And it's not just this one Twitter user either. The article digs up all this stuff from when Walz was teaching at Mankato West High School.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, they're saying there were all these rumors about his behavior back then. And apparently it even came up in school board meetings.
Wow. It's amazing how these things can follow someone, even without any real proof.
It's like where there's smoke.
Right, exactly. People hear a little whisper and,
And they just run with it.
yeah, it's hard to put that genie back in the bottle.
Totally. And this article does not hold back on the details. They even bring up this nickname that Walz supposedly had, Touchdown Timmy.
Touchdown Timmy.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
Makes you wonder where they even got that from.
right. And it does make you wonder, like, what are they trying to imply here?
That's what I was thinking. Especially when you consider this other detail they throw in, that Walz was super involved in starting a gay-straight alliance at the school.
Interesting. So it's like they're trying to paint a picture.
Exactly. Whether it's true or not, it gets people thinking.
It does make you question the motivation behind all of this. Like, why now? Why this close to the election?
Right. And we should point out the article does say that none of the stuff about Walz has actually been proven.
Okay.
But then it goes on to quote that Twitter user again. They said, that being said, they do explain why Tim Walz gets such a cold reception in Mankato.
Oh, so they're acknowledging there's no proof, but...
But there's still that insinuation.
Yeah, like they're saying, read between the lines.
Exactly. And that kind of stuff can be really damaging, especially online.
Oh, absolutely. It's like trying to put out a wildfire once that kind of information is out there.
Totally. So where do we go from here? How do we even begin to figure out what's true and what's not?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
So earlier you mentioned October surprises. What exactly are those?
It's kind of like it sounds. It's October, right? Elections coming up.
Right.
And then bam, some big story drops that could totally change things.
Okay, so that makes sense. But do they actually work? Do they really change how people vote?
It's tough to say for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they backfire. People feel sorry for the person they're attacking.
Right.
But sometimes it can be really bad, especially if, the attack just plays into what people already kind of think.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, with this Tim Walz thing, do you think it could actually hurt his chances or even, Kamala's chances of winning?
It's definitely a risk, especially these days. Think about it. Information spreads so fast online.
Oh, totally.
So even if people don't, fully believe these accusations, that little seed of doubt is there.
And it's hard to get rid of that, right?
Exactly. And then becomes, well, where there's smoke.
There's fire.
Exactly. Even if there's no real proof.
So what can you even do about that? If you're Walz or Kamala's team,
Right.
how do you even fight back?
Right. It's a tough one. If you ignore it completely, people think you're hiding something.
Right, right.
But if you say too much, then you're just giving it more attention.
That's a tough spot to be in. And this isn't exactly a new trick, right? This whole using rumors to make someone look bad.
Oh, no, not at all. People have been doing this forever, long before the internet. It's just
easier now.
way easier, and it spreads so much faster. Like that saying, a lie can travel halfway around the world.
Before the truth gets its boots on.
Right. Except now, with social media, it's like that lie is on a rocket ship.
Seriously. So, what can people even do? How do we, protect ourselves from this stuff? Especially during an election.
Well, I think the biggest thing is just to be careful about what you believe.
Yeah.
If something sounds too crazy to be true,
It probably is.
Exactly. Like, if it makes you really angry or upset right away,
Yeah.
take a breath.
Don't just share it right away.
Right. Check the source. See if anyone else is reporting on it.
Look for the actual evidence, not just someone saying something happened.
Exactly. And even if there is some evidence, think about where it's coming from. Is it biased? Do they have an agenda?
It's like, I don't almost have. You almost have to become a detective yourself.
Totally. And a big part of that is being honest with yourself about your own biases.
Oh, right. We all have those. But how do you even know what your biases are?
Well, ask yourself, am I believing this just because I want it to be true?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Or am I not believing it because it goes against what I normally think?
So it's really about being honest with yourself and being open to different points of view.
Exactly. It's really easy to just stay in your own little bubble online.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And you only see stuff that you already agree with. But you got to get out of that bubble.
So, like, read stuff you don't agree with.
Exactly. It'll challenge you to think differently.
That's a good point.
And don't be afraid to talk to people you disagree with.
Oh, that's a good idea. Have those conversations. Respectfully, of course.
That's how we learn and grow, right?
Exactly. So we don't just, like, blindly follow whatever we see online.
Right. Knowledge is power. The more informed we are, the better decisions we can make.
Totally.
Mhm.
And that's not just about voting, but, like, everything in life, right?
Exactly. Being a critical thinker doesn't mean you don't trust anything.
It just means you're paying attention.
Exactly. You're thinking for yourself. You're questioning things.
Because the world is always changing, so we gotta keep up.
Exactly.
All right, so we've talked about this Tim Walz story, the whole idea of October surprises.
Mhm.
But I think the big takeaway here is that there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially during elections.
Definitely.
So what can our listeners do to, like, protect themselves? What are some practical tips for navigating this stuff?
Oh, I like that. Let's empower our listeners to be like news detectives.
All right, so how do we do that? How do we become those news detectives? What are our tools?
Well, the first one is simple, but so important. Check your sources.
Okay, that makes sense, but what does that actually look like in real life?
So you see a headline. Right? First thing, don't just click and share.
Mm-hmm.
Look at who's sharing it. Look who wrote it. Is it someone you trust? A news source you've heard of? Or is it like,
Some random blog.
yeah, or even just like a random person with an agenda?
So do your research on the source.
Exactly. And then even if the source seems legit, look for the actual evidence.
Not just like what they're claiming.
Right. Claims are easy. Anyone can say anything. Look for facts, data, quotes from experts.
And think about those sources too, right? Like even if they have a quote from an expert, is that expert biased?
Oh, for sure. That's a big one. Everyone has an angle. So even if there's evidence, think about who's presenting it and what they gain from it.
So it's like being skeptical, but not.
Cynical. There's a difference. It's not about thinking everything's a lie, but being aware that not everything is the full truth either.
And this is where it gets tricky, right? Because we all have our own biases.
Oh, absolutely. We all have that lens we're looking through, whether we realize it or not.
So how do we even know what our biases are?
It's tough.
Yeah.
But try asking yourself, why am I believing this so easily? Like, is it just because it fits what I already thought?
Oh, interesting.
Or, on the flip side, if you find yourself immediately disagreeing with something.
Wait, I'm being too quick to judge.
Exactly. We can miss out on learning something new if we're too stuck in our own heads, you know?
That's a good point. So how do we get out of that?
Well, for one, don't let yourself get stuck in an echo chamber.
You mean like only seeing stuff I already agree with?
Exactly. It's comfy in there, but it's not how you grow.
So make yourself uncomfortable.
Sometimes, yeah, read something you think you'll disagree with, have a respectful conversation with someone who sees things differently.
That's when you learn the most, right? When you're challenged.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of all this, right? This whole critical thinking thing. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about...
It's about learning how to think.
Exactly. And how to keep learning, even when it's hard, even when we mess up.
That's a great point to end on. So to our listeners out there, remember, we all have a responsibility to be informed, to be engaged.
To think for ourselves.
Exactly. So stay curious, ask questions, and keep digging for the truth. And as always, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.